I'm Lexi. I'm in the US. I had so much fun doing the 5 days of freezer meals video that I figured I would try and do a 5 days of soups video. So this is day 1 and I'm gonna make, let's call it fiesta soup, because that sounds like fun, doesn't it? So the first thing we're gonna need to do is chop up an onion. I'm gonna go for a pretty small dice because this is soup, so I want everything to fit nicely on a spoon. I've got a slightly different camera set up than usual, and I'm having a hard time looking at the camera and chopping at the same time, so I'll figure this out. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to look at what I'm chopping and not look at you guys when I'm chopping it. Sorry. I'm also going to cut up this yellow pepper. That onion has a bit of the eye burn going on. Okay. And I have a pot over on the stove already getting hot, so I'm going to go put these vegetables in there and cook them down just a little bit. I just want to get a little bit of caramelization going on them, add some extra flavor to the party. I'll see you when these are done. I forgot, there's one more thing I wanted to add to that pot. I've got about half a pepper's worth of green peppers that were diced up in my freezer. So I'm going to go ahead and add those too. Everybody benefits from a bit of extra vegetable, right? So the vegetables have cooked for 5 or 6 minutes, and there's just a little bit of caramelization on them, not too much. So we're going to go ahead and add in the rest of our ingredients. This is a bag of pre-shredded frozen chicken. I was making, what was I making? I made burrito bowls a couple of days ago, and I knew I wanted to make this soup, so I went ahead and boiled and shredded up enough chicken to do this one and to do one more that we're going to do later in the week. So I'm just going to throw that in, and then I've got a can of rinsed and drained black beans, and a jar of, there goes that lid, and a jar of enchilada sauce. Store-bought is fine. A jar of diced tomatoes, and I'm going to go ahead and pour the liquid in with this one. And a quart of chicken stock. Now, at this point, if you want to put corn or rice in here, you could do so. Both of those would be good additions. I'm going to put in some salt because I know my chicken stock is made without salt. So I'm going to put in a fair amount. You know, I'm also going to get some garlic. Just some garlic powder. And I'm going to add one more thing. I kind of want to make this a little bit of a richer soup. You could cook it just like this and it would be good, but I'm going to add in some cream cheese. That'll help thicken it and give it more of a rich and cozy vibe. I didn't bring it. Left my knife over there. Thought I was done with it, so I tucked it out of the way. Wasn't done with it, was I? I'm just going to take about 1/3 of this block and plop it right in. And then this is going to go on the stove and heat up, get all nice and bubbly, and I will see you when it's done. Okay, so I do believe this soup is done. I did end up adding about 1 teaspoon each of cumin and parsley and a little bit more garlic. If you like cilantro, you could add cilantro. I'm not a fan. Like I said, you could add corn, you could add rice. You could add sour cream instead of the cream cheese. I just had the cream cheese hanging around and I'm a little low on sour cream at the moment. But let's give this a taste. I want some chicken. There we go. That's a nice bite, right? It's very hot. Very hot. Very good. This is one of my favorite soups to make because it comes together so quickly. Especially if you've got that shredded chicken already in the freezer. Whenever I'm boiling and shredding chicken for one recipe, I always make enough for 2 or 3, just so that I've got it in there for when I want something else. I am going to serve this up and enjoy my dinner, and I will see you tomorrow for another soup. Bye. Hi, welcome to day 2 of making soups. Today we are going to make a chicken sausage and potato soup. It is really cold out today. I've got the warm fuzzy sweater going on. Perfect kind of day for soup. So this one's really easy. This is the kind of sausage I use. I like to use a sweet Italian sausage, not a spicy one, and I do add some spice in myself. And I like a chicken sausage that doesn't have paprika in it. That's just me. So what I'm going to do first is I've got my pot heating up on the stove already. I am going to take the sausage meat out of the casing and brown it in the pot. So I'm going to go do that, and then I'll be right back. Next thing we're going to do is cut up the onion, well, an onion, and then some potatoes. This is a pretty simple soup, not a lot of components. But, I don't know, it's just something about it. It's one of my favorites. What's your favorite soup? Let me know down below. And if I didn't make it in this video, maybe I'll try in the next one. This is quite a large onion, isn't it? Gonna push this to the side a bit because that sausage is still browning. And then I'm gonna give some of these potatoes a rinse and get them chopped up too. Let's start with 4, see where that gets us. And I gave that sausage a bit of a stir, broke it up some. I tend to get lazy and not peel these. If you want to peel them, by all means. Now these are russet potatoes, which is a baking potato. And that's the kind of potato I'd recommend for this. Normally you'd use something that would hold together a little bit better, like a Yukon Gold in a soup. But I kind of like the way that these break up a little bit and add some creaminess to the finished soup. I like to just cut them in half and then cut them in slices. If you want chunks, by all means, you can do that too. The beautiful thing about cooking in your house is you can customize things any way you want to. Well, the sausage is still over there cooking away. When it's done, I will be back and show you what happens next. Okay, that sausage has gotten all cooked up now, and we're going to dump in all these potatoes and onions. Making a mess. You can just retrieve these. I'm going to put in a pretty good size pinch of salt, or two, because my chicken stock does not have salt in it. If you're buying chicken stock at the store that already has salt in it, or if you made it and it has salt in it, wait on the salt, or at least go easy on it. And then in goes 1 quart of chicken stock. And we're going to put in a fair bit of garlic. Garlic's good. And a nice pinch of thyme. Looks like I need to refill my container. Looks like I need to practice putting the lid on my container. And a bit of red pepper flake. About that much. Not too much. You want it to have a little bit of zing, but not to blow your head off. And the last ingredient we're going to add is some heavy cream. That's maybe 2/3 of a cup. I'm going to grab a spoon to stir that, or a spatula. A spatula works for stirring too, right? Then I am going to put this back on the stove and let it cook until the potatoes get nice and soft. I may add a little more water. We'll see as it goes. I will see you in a minute. Soup's all done. I didn't end up having to add anything else. I do like to top this. It's a little hard to get a bite out of the pot for you with how big the potatoes are. I do like to top this with a bit of Parmesan cheese. And yeah, the good Parmesan would be better, but good old Kraft is what I have. I should learn from yesterday and not burn my mouth again, huh? Still really hot. So good. And that cheese is just the finishing touch this needs. So I'm going to get some of this in a bowl and enjoy my dinner. And I will see you back when it's time for day 3. Bye. Hi, it's day 3 of making soups. Today we are going to make a cheeseburger potato soup. I already have the hamburger meat browning in a pot, so we are going to cut our vegetables while that cooks for us. So for this soup, I kind of want the types of vegetables that you would put on a burger. So I like onions on my burgers. Onions just impart so much flavor that there aren't a lot of dishes that I don't put onion in. I go through a lot of onions. Probably one good-sized onion a day. And then you can't have potato soup without potatoes. Just like with the chicken sausage soup, I'm going to be lazy and not peel these. If you want peeled potatoes, you can have peeled potatoes. Unlike the sausage soup, I am going to cut these a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to stack these up. And go so I've got little cubes. I am going to get the rest of these potatoes cut up and let that hamburger finish cooking, and I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, so I've got this hamburger all cooked up in here, and I want this to be a little bit of a thicker, creamier soup. So I'm going to make a roux. There's some fat in here just from the ground beef itself, so I'm going to just sprinkle in a tablespoon or so. That's probably more like 2 tablespoons of flour. Give it a little stir. Now normally you do this over the stove, over the heat, but I think there's enough heat in this pan to get the flour cooked enough to at least get us to the next step so you can see what's going on. So just a little bit of flour in there. And then we're going to add some beef stock. I like to use the unsalted or low sodium beef stock. That's not to say I'm not going to add salt. I just want to control the salt myself. So I'm going to pour this in. I'm going to give this a stir. And then as it cooks, that flour is going to help thicken up this broth a little bit. And you want to really scrape the bottom here to get all the little stuck bits, because there's a lot of flavor in those stuck bits. Let's add in these onions and potatoes, and then get this back on the stove. Well, if you haven't gathered by now, I like a lot of stuff in my soup. If you want a more brothy soup, either use less stuff or just use more stock. That's entirely up to you. This is just how I like to make it. I'm going to put this back on the heat and I'll be right back. Okay, so there's 2 more things I'm going to put in this soup. One is just a can of diced tomatoes. There's my jar opener. I guess I lied. There's a few more things that go in this. But the first one is a can of diced tomatoes. And I am going to drain this because I don't want the extra liquid to go in. So I'm going to dump these in now. And what else goes on a burger? Well, cheese, right? And I know Velveeta isn't the highest quality, most amazing cheese in the world, but it really closely resembles burger cheese, but it melts better. So it's going to melt into the soup better than if I tried to use like slices of American cheese. And it's going to taste more like a traditional cheeseburger than if I used cheddar. Now that being said, this soup could probably work very well with like a mushroom Swiss burger vibe. If you wanted to use Swiss cheese and add in some mushrooms, that's your prerogative. I do like mushroom Swiss burgers. I probably would like the soup like that. I've just never done it that way. Maybe I'll need to. Now, for ease, I don't know why I cut it like that. We are going to chop this into smaller pieces, and that will help it melt a little bit faster. I honestly don't know how much of this cheese I'm going to put in. I might decide to put that other half block in, but I'm going to start with just half of the small block of Velveeta. So, what else goes in a burger? Mustard. Now, I don't like traditional yellow mustard, but if you do, you can totally use that. I'm going to use this mustard. Ketchup also goes in burgers, but I don't like ketchup, and we've already got the tomatoes in there, so I think we're covered on that. If you want to put in some chopped up bacon, I would cook it first so it's nice and crispy, but you can totally put some chopped up bacon in there. That'd probably be really good. And I'm going to do something to kind of simulate that, but I don't have any bacon in my house right now, so I can't actually do bacon. I'll show you what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to put in just a couple of drops of this liquid smoke, and that'll kind of give you that smoky flavor that the bacon imparts without having to actually put bacon in the soup. I'm going to let that cook, and once everything gets nice and warm, I'm going to stir in the cheese, and I will let you know if I add anything else to it. I can tell you right now, I'm going to add some salt and I'm going to add some pepper, but I'll tell you if I add anything else. See you in a few. Soup's all done. So I only ended up putting in a dash of the liquid smoke, about 4 tablespoons of mustard, and a good pinch of salt and some pepper. I didn't add any other seasonings. And I did end up cutting up and putting in the other half of that block of cheese, minus a couple of pieces I might have eaten. But you can see here we've got this really rich, at least you can see if the camera's not fogged up, this really rich cheesy soup. I let it simmer for about 7 or 8 minutes, and then I stirred in the cheese, and then let it continue until the potatoes were soft. But we need to take a taste of this, don't we? You'd think I'd learn by now. That's really hot. But it's so good. Delicious, rich, comforting. Perfect for a cold winter's dinner. That's all I've got for today, and I'll see you back for day 4 of soups. Hi! Welcome back to Soup Day 4. Today we are going to make one of my favorites, although I feel like I've been saying that every day, but maybe that's just the nature of the beast. I'm making my favorite soups for all of you. One of my favorites, which is a pasta and bean soup. I've already got my pot heating up on the stove with some oil, so the first thing to do is cut up some vegetables. We're going to start with an onion, and I am going to go ahead and dice this whole onion, I think. A nice little pile of detritus over there. Nice little pieces, just like always, so they can go right in the soup. And then I'm going to cut up a carrot. I don't like a ton of carrot in my soup, so I'm only going to do one. And I don't know about you, but when all the rest of the pieces in my soup are small and I get these big chunks of carrot, I don't like that. I want smaller chunks of carrot so that they kind of match up and everything's about the same size. Onions getting in my eyes again. I must have gotten a really strong bag of onions. Excuse me. Oh. Not sure where I bought those onions or what makes them different than the ones I usually get. But woof, they're strong. And then, I don't cook with a lot of celery. I don't buy it real often. So when I find it on clearance, I pick one up and I bring it home and I dice it real small and put it in the freezer for when I want it. So I'm just going to put, let's say that chunk, plus a few of these, of celery into the pot with the rest of the vegetables. I am going to let this saute for about 5 minutes just until these soften up a little bit and get aromatic. And then I'll be right back. Okay, so I just cooked these for 5 minutes or so. There's not really any color on them. They're just softened a bit and they smell delicious. So now we're pretty much just going to dump in the rest of the ingredients. This is the last of that chicken that I said I made when I made a whole bunch at once. I knew I wanted to make this soup, so I made sure to set aside, there we go, enough chicken to be able to do so. And that's frozen, so it'll thaw as we cook. And then I'm going to add a can of kidney beans, and I've already rinsed and drained these. I don't like the goo that's in the bean cans. And a can of cannellini beans. Looks like I didn't rinse those quite as well as I would have liked. A jar of chicken stock. And I've got these bags of shredded zucchini that I keep in the freezer, and they're perfect for adding into soups and sauces. They just add a little bit more vegetable matter, and you don't really even notice it's there. So I'm going to add about half this bag. You think I can get away with a little more? I think I can get away with a little more. There we go. And some salt. Nice healthy pinch of salt. That my hands are wet, so it's now sticking to my hands. Some garlic. Start about that much. Can always add more. Gonna add in some parsley. And a bit of thyme. And some pepper. And it's not pasta and bean soup without pasta, is it? So I like to get these Buitoni 3-cheese tortellini. If you would rather get tortellini with meat in them, go for it. I do get the mini ones, not the big ones. And you find these in the refrigerated section of the grocery store, but they'll freeze for storage just fine. And these are still frozen. I just go right out of the freezer, dump them in here, and everything will heat up and thaw together. So give that a rough stir. And I'm going to put this back on the heat, and I'll be back when it's all hot and bubbly. I decided I'm going to add one more thing to that soup. A jar of tomatoes. Gonna let it cook some more. Doesn't that look good? I went ahead and I put in about a tablespoon of butter just so that it would have like a more silky mouthfeel to it. And I put in some more garlic too, about the same amount again. It just smelled like it needed some more. So let's give this a taste and try to not burn my mouth this time. Now that is delicious. At least as good, if not better, than any chicken noodle soup out there. So I'm going to put some of this in a bowl and enjoy my dinner, and I'll see you back for day 5. Bye! Hi! It's our last day of 5 days of soups. I've already got a pot on the stove with some ground beef browning. Today, I thought we'd do something that I'm just going to call pantry soup. Meaning, I just kind of walked through my pantry and fridge and picked out some stuff that needed to get used up, and we're going to make some soup. I didn't bring you along with me on that part because my pantry really needs to be cleaned. But we're going to start with a carrot and an onion. We're just going to chop these up nice and fine while that ground beef browns away over there. This is kind of a big carrot. Do you want to see more of these 5-day of videos? Crock pots, sheet pan meals, casseroles, air fryer. I don't have an Instapot, so I can't do that. If you like these, I can definitely do more of them. I have to eat dinner every day after all. Ugh, this onion is a spicy one too. I will not be sorry to see this bag of onions gone. I'm going to, excuse my blinking, I'm going to throw these in the pot with the hamburger meat so that these can soften up a little before we throw in the rest of the ingredients. Be right back. Okay, I've got the ground beef and the onions and the carrots here. And These are some lentils that I pre-boiled. This is a 1.25 cups of lentils. Well, it was a 1.25 cups when they were dry. And I just boiled them for about 25 minutes until they were pretty soft. I didn't go until they were fully cooked because I knew that they were going to cook in here some. And I've got some rice just finishing up on the stove. So this is a cup dry of just plain white rice. Gonna dump that into. And some of that frozen celery I keep around. That's about half of what I got left. Really need to get some more of that. And the rest of that bag of zucchini from, was it just yesterday I used this? Zucchini. Nice healthy pinch of salt to start with. Bunch of garlic powder. Bunch of pepper. And nice healthy pinch of parsley. Just adds a bit of freshness to it to make sure you have an herb in there. And then this is turkey stock. Would it be better with beef stock or chicken stock? I don't know. Turkey stock is what I have a bunch of in my pantry that needs to be used. So that's what I went with. And I think it'll taste good. You know what? I want one more thing. I want some cumin in here. I think cumin just adds a little meatiness to meat dishes. And with the ground beef and the lentils in here, I think it'll do quite well. Probably should have just taken the cap off, huh? That looks pretty good to me. Give this a bit of a stir. I'm going to put this back on the stove, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Doesn't that look delicious? Okay, maybe it doesn't look so great, but it sure smells good. Only one thing left to do, right? I love lentil soup. And mixing the lentils with rice, I really like this take on it. Delicious, and you should try it. One thing that I didn't touch on in all this talk about soup is how incredibly easy it is to meal prep soup. So I make this giant pot, right? Well, I'm going to take probably at least half of this and put it in a freezer safe container and freeze it for later. And it's great lunches, whether you need to take something to work with you or you just don't feel like cooking one night or afternoon. Soup is incredibly easy to meal prep. And I probably have 3 or 4 kinds of soup in my freezer at any given time. Maybe a few more right now. But that wraps up our 5 days of soup, doesn't it? This has been a lot of fun. I'm gonna kind of miss soup tomorrow. But that's all I've got for today. If you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye!